So if you remember, the B stands for breaking barriers. And so last week we talked about that it's important for you to know you have to make sales happen. This isn't something that we wait on and hope and pray that everybody comes back to our model or calls us or responds to our emails, that we have to be proactive, bold in making sales happen. So the B for breaking barriers really referred to barriers within your own organization, barriers for yourself, barriers where we had to learn virtual selling because we literally had a barrier where we could not be in person with anyone for several weeks there. So that was really the first letter. But then when I look at O, I'm calling that one overcoming obstacles, which sounds an awful lot like breaking barriers, except the difference is the barriers I'm referring to your internal processes, sales operation barriers. The overcoming obstacles, I'm referring to the home buyers' obstacles. I'm referring to the home buyers' objections. So what I'd like to do is have you go open up your chat there. If you're looking at your Zoom toolbar, right in the right next to participants, there is a chat feature button that you can click on. And I would love for you to type into the chat, what are the obstacles or the objections that you're either currently hearing or you expect to hear in terms of somebody buying a home right now? Okay, go. Let me see what you've got. What are some of the objections, the things that you're hearing that people might say or that the concerns they might have? Okay, not knowing when they will go back to work. Perfect. Employment and can I qualify? Excellent. Will I have a job? Excellent. I have a house to sell. I don't know. Could I sell it for more if I sit on it? Am I going to lose money if I sell it now? The stock market is down. Yes. Yes. Oh, Kevin, I love this. Kevin from Outhouse typed in obstacles. Obstacles are those frightful things you see when you take your eyes off the goal. Henry Ford. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. A flood of homes will all be coming on the market. Will prices drop? So yes, you're getting it. Okay. So this is where I want to talk about all of these fears, all of these concerns that we know are in their minds. Now, I know what you want from me out of this segment. What you want from me is for me to give you a magic bullet, a silver bullet, a pill, a magic pill that will cut your hair, take 25 pounds of COVID-19 off, and solve all of these fears in your buyer's minds. Like if I know what you want me to give you a script of exactly what to say that will just solve all of this and make it go away. And guess what? That doesn't exist. That does not exist. You know why? Because these are human beings behind all of these objections and obstacles. Yes, you want me to give you the answers. Like this is a multiple choice test and I could just go B, C, D, question 1, B, question 2, C, right? No, it doesn't work like that. Pat, that's a great one. I'm afraid I won't get much for my existing home right now. Yes. So what do we hear when we hear an objection or an obstacle? Well, we hear fear, right? We hear fear. And as a salesperson or marketer, this applies to both of you, because if you're in marketing, you always want to create campaigns, incentives, promotions that help subliminally overcome some of these fears. And when you're in sales, you're working one-on-one, having verbal conversations to overcome these fears, right? So it works for both sides of the coin. And when we hear fear coming from someone, our natural inclination, what you want to do as a salesperson is what? Fix it. You want to fix it. Like I said, you're looking for that magic pill, that silver bullet. Guess what? Some of these fears can't be fixed. And that's really my first point for you. Instead, of you trying to fix it. Because when you're in a relationship with someone, could be romantic or could be your best friend or somebody, one of your family members, and you are venting to them, you're talking to them, do you always appreciate it when they try to fix it? Or do you sometimes need someone to listen and be caring? Yes. So while I'm not expecting you to, or advising that you just agree with the objection or you empathize with it whatsoever, don't go there. That's not what I'm saying. I do want you to approach it differently. Instead of approaching it with the attitude to fix it, overcome it, I want you to approach it with curiosity. I've posted a link to a Harvard Business Review article in our Facebook group yesterday, our virtual builder town hall Facebook group. And I want you to read this article because this really is what spawned my whole idea for today. I didn't think of it. I read this article and I said, this is what our salespeople need to be doing. I want you to approach that objection with curiosity. I would advise that you say, tell me more about that. And shut up. Don't try to just have an answer. Don't try to just dismiss it, make it go away, pat it away like, oh, nobody just said that out loud, right? No. Yeah, I want you to be curious and I want you to ask questions about it. A lot of times when somebody has a fear or a concern, it is really driven from a much more human place than it is about that particular concern. That the property backs up to a railroad track, that's something we've had to overcome for years. Right? It's not really about that, right? It's always more about the lifestyle they're going to be there, when they're going to hear it, is it going to wake them up? There's more to it. So I want you to approach it with curiosity. Now, here's the thing I'll warn you about. This is going to feel uncomfortable because if we're curious about it, then a couple of things is going to have to happen. Number one, I think we fear the conversation going negative. So we try to avoid that. We try to avoid it. Whereas I'll be honest with you, my approach most of the time, if I'm dealing with a client and I'm sensing there's something off, there's something wrong, I try to get it out into the open in a gentle way. I mean, I don't want to fuel any fires here, but I want to pull that out and I want to take a look at it. So I just really say, number one, you might be avoiding being curious because you're afraid the conversation's going to go negative and you're not going to have the answers. And it's okay. It's okay if you don't have the answers. You don't have to have the answers. So don't avoid having somebody say, and saying, tell me more, and letting them start to really tell you what's going on with them. Another thing I think we avoid being curious or asking more in an effort to relate to someone, in an effort to let them know that you get it, you understand them, you're trying to build rapport, you're trying to build a relationship. A lot of times we can just take over the conversation and just start talking. Trying to reassure someone that oh yes, I feel the same way. That time I blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, you've talked for 10 minutes and they've stopped talking and basically shut down. So be careful that you're not shutting down these important conversations in an honest desire to relate, but you're basically taking it over and trying to fix it. And then lastly, I think we avoid being curious and saying, tell me more, because that makes us really think about our own fears of this whole thing. I mean, we really don't want to go there, right? We don't want to think about what if people completely stop buying homes, which they're not, but we don't want to think about that. We don't want to think about 10% unemployment. We're trying to be positive. We're trying to move forward, but you might be shutting somebody down that it would help if they just talked about what it is that their objection or their obstacle is. So I would love for you to embrace these conversations instead of avoid them. Now, what can you do? What are some positive things you can do if you're willing to embrace them, if you're willing to say, tell me more about that, and let the person expand on their concerns? Well, okay, let me give you some tips. Number one, know your numbers. Know your numbers. So if you happen to be fortunate enough to sell in a market like here in Raleigh, North Carolina, there is article after article after article literally published on a weekly basis about this place, amazing place ranking top 10 places to live, 5 most growing places to work. I mean, we've got so much positive economic, quality of lifestyle. There's so much quantitative data about what a fabulous place this is to live, what a great center of employment this is. So what are your numbers? And maybe you don't live in a market like this one, but what quantitative data research could you have at your fingertips that you've memorized, that once the person's talked and you've given them room to explore this with you, you then lean in and say, well, I'll give you a couple of things to think about that might be helpful. And when we're done, I'll email you the article so you can read more about it. And so when we want to overcome fear, some of the best ways to do that is with data, analytics, quantitative numbers. All right. So hopefully you can put your creative thinking hat on and you can find some positive quantitative data that, you don't hammer it on anybody too hard, but you throw a couple bullet points out there and just say, and again, I'll just email you this to show, prices have actually increased in this area 5%, 10%, whatever in the last year, blah, blah. So know your data. What are your numbers? Bring them back in with that. 2 is have those resources ready. Do you have we call it a swipe file, like if it's on your phone, or a click file if it's on your computer, of positive articles, resources that talk about, for example, why this is not the same as 2008. That talks about, again, positive economic news in your market, positive reasons to live there, why it's a great lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have a swipe file at your fingertips where you can just get some information out to someone for their review at their convenience? And then lastly, make sure that you are working in any positive news, testimonials, examples as you're talking. We call this seeding the talk. You seed the conversation with a quick backstory of the family that just closed last week in that community. And of course, you don't share any personal details or anything to the point where you violate privacy, but you might mention, we actually had 35 closings last month. That was incredible. We're so excited. This community is on pace for sales. Like, you work in positive things. Now, they must be true. Do not make this stuff up. If you make it up, they will know it. And if you do that, that's going to be a big problem. So those are my 3 quick tips: is know your numbers. Again, nothing works against a kind of not irrational fear, but an emotional fear, like a quantitative number or data. 2, have resources ready. And 3, work in your positive testimonials, your case studies, your examples, anything that you can share. You seed the conversations with the positive. Well, as a matter of fact, I was just so excited and surprised. We were open last weekend, our model home, and we had 30 people through here, and that was amazing. Just work it in. Keep working it in. Let them know. It's called social proof. That's why McDonald's for years and years and years has had 5 billion served on their sign. It's called social proof. You give social proof that other people are moving forward, and it's okay for you to move forward too. And you can use any of these tips in your follow-up with your home buyers, in your voicemails, your emails, or in your conversations with them. So that is our O in overcoming obstacles, because we want to help make sales happen, and we want them to happen now, not 3 months from now when everything's all back to normal and we're all fine, right? Like there's no time to waste. So we want to be proactive and we want to make that happen. Now, my last thing on this topic is just to say this to you, that when you are overcoming these obstacles and really letting people talk and being comfortable with them being uncomfortable, make sure the worst thing you could possibly do is come across insincere or inauthentic. That is the worst thing you could do, because this whole thing is about showing that you care, that you're listening, that you're paying attention, and that you're here for them. If it's the right time for them and we can overcome some of these obstacles, you are a competent, confident person they can move forward with. But the minute you come across insincere or, just going through the motions, maybe overly canned, just something that doesn't give me that authentic caring, it's going to be a problem. In our Facebook group later today or tomorrow, I will post a link to a sales rally talk I did several years ago on trust breakers. And I named 3 or 4 things that you can do in a conversation to accidentally come across as inauthentic when you meant the best possible thing. But there's just little things we do sometimes when we're having conversations that we don't even know we're doing it, and it sends up a red flag to people like, can I trust you? Okay, so I'll post that as a resource for you in our Facebook group. And I think between that and taking these steps on overcoming their obstacles, you are going to be all set.